On April 27th, 3 surfers were brutally during a surfing trip near Ensenada, Mexico, a region notorious for its drug cartel activities, after they tried to resist and mess with armed savage cartel members. This is what went down, according to the Mexican police, who some would say is too corrupt to trust. The surfers had come to the area to enjoy its famous waves and celebrate a birthday. However, their presence in a cartel-dominated region marked them as targets. Observing the foreign surfers with valuable equipment, cartel members assumed they were rival gang members encroaching on their territory. The situation escalated when the cartel attempted to rob the surfers of their truck, intending to strip it for parts. When the surfers resisted the robbery, the cartel operatives responded with force to eliminate any potential threats. They shot the surfers, ensuring there were no witnesses that could later identify them or describe the event. This reaction underscores the cartel's ruthless enforcement of their control over the area. To conceal their crimes, the perpetrators dumped the bodies of the 3 surfers in a remote 50-foot deep well, 4 miles away from the scene. The site was chosen for its seclusion, making the discovery of the bodies unlikely, thus delaying any potential investigation. The region is primarily dominated by the Sinaloa Cartel and the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, 2 of the most powerful drug organizations in Mexico. Both cartels are known for their tactics and strict territorial control, and either could have been responsible for the attack on the surfers. Jake and Callum Robinson, the Australian brothers, were both avid adventurers and sports enthusiasts. Jake, younger of the 2, had just returned from the Coachella Music Festival and was a practicing physician in Victoria. Callum was a Stevenson University graduate and a member of the Australian national lacrosse team. Their American friend, Jack Carter Rode, had a background in humanitarian work and had once founded a clothing company before moving into tech, also a former professional soccer player. The brutal of 3 vibrant young men shattered the lives of their families and sent shockwaves through the community. Their underscores the ruthless and unchecked power of the cartels operating with impunity in Mexico. Following the grim discovery of the bodies of Jake and Callum Robinson and Jack Carter Rode, Mexican authorities acted swiftly to present suspects, aiming to demonstrate control and quick resolution. However, the circumstances surrounding the arrests of the 3 individuals, Jesus Gerardo Garcia Cota, his partner Ari Giselle Garcia Cota, and Christian Alejandro Garcia, have raised more questions than answers. Reportedly, one of them said that he effed up 3 gringos. These suspects, described as local criminals, were quickly linked to the brutal of the surfers, allegedly over a botched vehicle robbery. However, given the strategic and ruthless nature of the and the methodical disposal of the bodies, doubts linger about the true extent of their involvement and whether they were merely scapegoats for more powerful entities within the cartel hierarchies. The general distrust in the local police force is rooted in a well-documented history of corruption and collusion with criminal organizations. It is widely believed that the cartels have the power to manipulate law enforcement agencies to serve their ends, using them to enforce their rule and protect their interests. The forensic examination of the bodies of Jake and Callum Robinson and Jack Carter Rode revealed details that painted a grim picture of their final moments. The autopsies indicated that all 3 men suffered multiple wounds, consistent with a violent encounter. The forensic report specified that each victim had received several high-caliber wounds, predominantly in the torso and head, indicating an intent to kill rather than merely incapacitate. The precision and concentration of the wounds suggested style likely carried out at close range. This method is often used by cartel to ensure the target is neutralized without the possibility of survival. Additionally, the examiner found signs of defensive wounds on the hands and arms of the victims, suggesting that they attempted to shield themselves or fight back against their attackers. These findings were consistent with a scenario where the victims were aware of the imminent threat and tried to defend themselves, albeit unsuccessfully. The state of the bodies also suggested that they had been left unattended for several days before being disposed of in the remote well. The advanced state of decomposition made it difficult to determine more specific details of the encounter, such as the exact time of death, but it was clear from the forensic evidence that the were both brutal and calculated. The evidence strongly contradicted the initial claims of a mere robbery gone wrong, pointing instead to a deliberate and savage assassination, characteristic of cartel violence. This forensic analysis not only highlighted the brutality of the crime, but also emphasized the efficiency with which these cartels operate, further casting doubt on the involvement of mere petty criminals as the perpetrators. We can't say for sure CJNG or the Sinaloa cartel is tied up in this event, but it wouldn't be a first. On the tragic night of December 17, 2017, Juan Luis Lagunas Rosales, known widely as El Pirata de Culiacán, made a fateful mistake that sealed his grim fate with the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG. Born into modest beginnings in Sinaloa, Mexico, Juan Luis catapulted to fame through his reckless and bold personality, which he broadcasted across social media platforms. His penchant for heavy drinking and audacious challenges made him a viral sensation, amassing a following that hung on his every word and action. Juan Luis's journey from obscurity to internet fame began with his candid videos showcasing binge-drinking episodes, which resonated with a young audience. His brazen demeanor and uncanny ability to entertain brought him unprecedented levels of attention and notoriety. As his popularity soared, Juan Luis's lifestyle grew increasingly extravagant, featuring luxury cars, women, and the illusion of a glamorous life. This portrayal, however, began to attract the wrong kind of attention, especially as he ventured into making bold public declarations. On a night that seemed like any other, Juan Luis, heavily influenced by alcohol, insulted Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, also known as El Mencho, the feared leader of the CJNG. He publicly challenged El Mencho's authority, uttering disparaging remarks that quickly spread across social media platforms. El Mencho, known for his ruthless leadership and zero tolerance for disrespect, controls one of the most powerful and cartels in Mexico. This direct insult marked Juan Luis not just as a brash youth but as a target. The response from the CJNG was swift and within hours of his public insult, while partying at a bar in Jalisco, a state under the tight grip of the CJNG, Juan Luis was brutally down by armed men who stormed the venue. The attack was merciless, with reports indicating that he was hit by over 15 underscoring the CJNG's brutal method of silencing those who dare to challenge them publicly. But Juan Luis is far from the only one entangled in messy cartel conflicts. On July 7, 2022, Rodrigo Mejia, better known as Fofo Marquez, a Mexican influencer, sparked outrage when he and his friends used 3 luxury cars to blockade the Matute-Remus Bridge in Guadalajara to film a TikTok video. Flaunting his wealth and influence, Fofo declared, "We've closed the fort out ourselves. This is what I want to demonstrate. What money and power can do." His actions caused a significant traffic jam, infuriating both the public and authorities, and his stunt went viral for all the wrong reasons. Fofo Marquez, born into wealth on July 15, 1997, comes from a family known for its prominent business ventures, including a grandfather who crafted shoes for Mexico's high-profile dignitaries, and a father who was a co-owner of a prominent gas station chain. Growing up in such an environment, Fofo cultivated an online persona centered around luxury, indulgence, and a carefree lifestyle, which resonated with over 3 million followers across his social platforms. Despite his popularity, the brazen stunt on the bridge crossed a line that should never have been crossed. It caught the attention of one of Mexico's most dangerous criminal organizations, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG. Led by Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, aka El Mencho, the CJNG is known for its brutal enforcement and uncompromising control over its territories. The cartel, which had declared itself against kidnapping and extortion in pursuit of a cleaner Mexico, saw Fofo's public disruption as a direct challenge to their authority and a breach of the peace they purportedly maintained. The reaction was swift and terrifying. Soon after the incident, Fofo received a chilling message from an anonymous account believed to be linked to the CJNG. It read, "Hello to all the people of Guadalajara. We are the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. As you might know, the influencer or scumbag Fofo Marquez dared to obstruct the flow of traffic on the Matute-Remus Bridge, which is an act that we don't tolerate. We will not allow this animal to get away with this. We are in charge of Jalisco and all of Mexico. If you ever step in Guadalajara again, not your money would save you from us." Panicked and realizing the gravity of his folly, Fofo issued a public apology, retreating to his family's mansion where he sought refuge under the watch of armed guards. His life transformed overnight from that of a carefree social media star to one marked by fear and paranoia. Despite his retreat and the surrounding security, the threat from the CJNG loomed large, illustrating that not even wealth and social stature could shield him from the consequences of his actions. But we're not done yet. Fofo and Luis conflicts weren't even remotely close to the most extreme encounters with CJNG. But who is this guy El Mencho? How did he gain power? Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, better known as El Mencho, is one of the most notorious and feared drug lords in the world. He is the leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, a criminal organization known for its aggressive tactics and confrontations with both rival cartels and Mexican security forces. El Mencho's rise to power is a story marked by brutality, strategic acumen, and an unyielding grip over one of Mexico's most powerful cartels. Born on July 17, 1966 in Michoacán, Mexico, El Mencho grew up in poverty, in a rural area known for its agricultural production. As a young man, he immigrated illegally to the United States in the 1980s, where he began his life of crime. Initially involved in street-level drug dealing, he was arrested several times and eventually deported back to Mexico in the early 1990s. Upon his return to Mexico, El Mencho joined the Milenio Cartel, where he quickly made a name for himself as a ruthless operator. When the Milenio Cartel fragmented, he and several other members formed the Jalisco New Generation Cartel around 2010. Under El Mencho's leadership, the CJNG rapidly expanded its operations, initially capitalizing on the territories and networks previously controlled by weakened rivals. The CJNG, under El Mencho's command, distinguished itself through extreme violence and military-style tactics. It is notorious for its use of high-powered weaponry, such as grenade launchers and automatic weapons, and has been known to down helicopters and conduct large-scale ambushes against security forces. This approach not only instilled fear, but also effectively eliminated competitors, allowing the CJNG to gain control over significant drug trafficking routes and territories. El Mencho's strategic approach extended beyond brute force. He diversified the cartel's operations to include the production and trafficking of multiple types of narcotics, including cocaine, and fentanyl. The CJNG also moved into other areas of organized crime, such as and even mining and logging, broadening its sources of revenue. The cartel has established significant international connections, extending its reach into the United States, Europe, Asia, and Latin America, which has made it not only a national, but also a global threat. Under El Mencho, the CJNG has become one of the most powerful and aggressive cartels in Mexico. Its activities have led to an ongoing cycle of violence in regions under its control, contributing significantly to the drug war that continues to plague Mexico. El Mencho himself remains one of the most wanted drug lords globally, with the United States government offering $10 million for information leading to his capture. Despite numerous large-scale operations to arrest him, El Mencho has evaded capture, attributed to both his deep understanding of law enforcement techniques, gleaned from his early experiences in the United States, and the alleged corruption within Mexican government agencies, which allows him to stay one step ahead of the law. El Mencho's power and influence stem from his ability to maintain strict control over CJNG operations, his ruthless of opposition, and his strategic alliances and expansion into lucrative drug markets. Now, only one crucial question remains: who is CJNG? The Jalisco New Generation Cartel is one of the most powerful and aggressive drug trafficking organizations in Mexico. Established around 2010, the CJNG initially formed as an offshoot of the Milenio Cartel, and under the leadership of Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, also known as El Mencho, it rapidly expanded its operations. El Mencho, a former police officer with extensive knowledge of Mexican law enforcement tactics, has led the cartel with a ruthless approach, contributing significantly to its notorious reputation. The CJNG is known for its tactics, which include direct confrontations with rival cartels and Mexican security forces. They are infamous for their use of extreme violence and public displays of power, such as bodies from bridges or posting videos of executions online. The cartel employs high-caliber weaponry, including launchers and automatic weapons, which are often used in their turf wars. They have been involved in numerous incidents, including the attacks against law enforcement in Mexico's recent history. The CJNG's primary base of operations is in Jalisco, but their influence and activities extend across various Mexican states and international borders. They control significant territories in Michoacán, Colima, and Guanajuato, among others. The cartel is also active in major metropolitan areas such as Mexico City and Guadalajara. Internationally, they have established routes and operations extending into the United States, Europe, Asia, and Australia, primarily for drug trafficking purposes. The CJNG has a complex relationship with local and national law enforcement agencies. There are ongoing accusations and some evidence suggesting that they have successfully infiltrated various levels of the police and political systems to protect and facilitate their operations. This corruption enables them to operate with a degree of impunity and makes it challenging for authorities to combat their influence effectively. Messing with the CJNG is extremely dangerous. They have a track record of aggressively targeting not only rival drug traffickers, but also law enforcement, military personnel, and anyone they perceive as a threat to their operations. The cartel has been known to track down and enemies and traitors ruthlessly. They also use intimidation tactics against civilians and government officials to maintain control and instill fear.